Hello, sci-fi fans, and welcome back to Nerd Doc. For once, we're not talking about a sequel. The Creator has been released in theaters, and in this video, we'll discuss the main plot points, explain how the world of The Creator works, and what's going on during the ending of the film. That means there will be spoilers for The Creator in this video. This is your spoiler warning. If you do not wish to be spoiled, you can check out our spoiler-free YouTube short review linked in the description below. If you have any questions about the movie, or just want to give us your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment. As always, the film is still in theaters and we can only use footage from the trailers. Please bear with us there. There are also chapter timestamps so you can jump around the video as you wish. Before we dive into the plot, it's important to define the world of The Creator. While most of the movie takes place between 2055 and 2070, it's an alternate timeline from what exists in the real world. The intro to the movie shows that robots and primitive AI have been around for decades, seemingly dating back to at least the early to mid-1900s. As society evolved with robots at our side, they became a way of life. However, the rest of society didn't evolve anywhere near as much as it has in the real world. For instance, there are no cell phones in the world of The Creator, and seemingly no internet. There are drones and space shuttles, but they seem to be controlled by radio signals, similar to how NASA communicated with astronauts during the Apollo missions. Even in 2065, all the cartoons and shows that are briefly seen in the film look like they're from the 1960s. This is because that's where much of the technology in the film seems to be stuck. There's super advanced AI and robots, electric vehicles, mini nukes, and other advanced weaponry, but everything else is stuck in the mid-1900s. This actually provides a unique take on AI and robots in general. Without the internet, you can't back up data from your personal robot, so if your robot dies, that death now has meaning. This is where there's a clear separation between the United States and Asia in the movie. The US treats robots like soulless servants, while Asia treats them like real people who are part of their society. In the movie, you have robots, simulants, and humans. Robots are exactly what you'd expect. They look like robots. Simulants are robots with a more human exterior. People can donate their likeness, which is then used to create the faces of simulants and make them look more human. Simulants are kind of like the middle ground between robots and humans, but they're still very clearly robotic. The backdrop of the film is that while robots have been around for some time, AI didn't advance until much later. When AI finally did advance, it wasn't long before Los Angeles was nuked, killing 1 million people. This caused the United States to declare war on all artificial intelligence. However, the republics of New Asia didn't agree with this and continued to advance their AI, leading to the creation of modern simulants. Think of the republics of New Asia as a combination of Japan, China, Indonesia, and many other Asian countries. There's a fair amount of Japanese kanji in the film, and a little bit of Japanese is spoken, but more often than not, the spoken language in the republics of New Asia sounded like Vietnamese. I could be wrong, but that's what it sounded like. At the very least, it definitely was not Japanese, Chinese, or Korean. Nirmata is the leading AI designer in the republics of New Asia, so the US has focused their efforts on finding and killing that person. Over the last 10 years, the United States built the USS Nomad, which stands for North American Mobile Air Defense. It's a giant aerial battleship that sits in the upper atmosphere above the republics of New Asia and drops mini nukes when any targets of significance are discovered. Oddly enough, while the US has space shuttles and consumer flights to the moon, the republics of New Asia don't seem to have any advanced aerial tech beyond drones and similar aerial devices. While this is an alternate world, it still seems a bit odd that the republics of New Asia can develop advanced AI and drones, but haven't developed planes or even borrowed the designs from the US. What this does is it allows the story to continue along, with the Nomad being the central plot point that the republics of New Asia can't just destroy with ease. It also shows that the republics of New Asia are more focused on humanity instead of advancements in technology, at least beyond AI. Once again, this shows a stark contrast between the US and the republics of New Asia, which is a common thread throughout the movie. The main character is Joshua, played by John David Washington. He was in Los Angeles when the nuke went off, causing him to lose his parents and siblings, as well as one arm and one leg. So he's basically Edward Elric now. The main story of the film begins in 2065, with Josh undercover for the US Army and the republics of New Asia, getting close to discovering the location of Nirmata. Josh is married to Maya, and they're expecting a child. Maya is believed to be the daughter of Nirmata, and while their relationship started as part of Josh's undercover operation, He has since truly fallen in love with Maya. The US Army conducts an unannounced raid on Josh's location, which ends with Josh revealing to Maya that he was undercover, causing her to run and presumably die in the Nomad attack that immediately followed. 5 years later, the US Army reaches out to Josh again, showing him video evidence that Maya is actually alive, and asking for his help navigating an AI base where they believe a new weapon is being made to destroy Nomad. This weapon is known as Alpha Omega, which basically translates to the beginning and the end. The Alpha Omega is essentially the beginning of new simulant life, but the main purpose of the weapon is to bring an end to the war and allow AI to live in peace, hence the name meaning the beginning and the end. Most of Josh's unit dies during this mission, with the exception of their commanding officer, Howell, and her right-hand man, McBride, who are both hot on Josh's tail throughout the entire film. Commander Howell also has a new piece of tech that allows her to scan the brain of a recently deceased human, download it to a USB drive of sorts, then upload it to a simulant to briefly speak to the deceased human. The longer the human has been dead, the shorter the time they can speak through the simulant. For instance, it's used on someone who has been dead for hours, which only gave Howell 30 seconds to talk to them once they were uploaded to the simulant. For his part, Josh only cares about finding Maya, his lost love, but during the mission he discovers that the Alpha Omega weapon is actually a simulant child, the first of its kind and the most advanced simulant ever made. Throughout the rest of the film, Josh essentially becomes its protector in a very father-like relationship. While the child is the Alpha Omega weapon, it goes by Alfie and was made by Nirmata. Therefore, Josh believes that Alfie can take him to Nirmata, who should be with Maya. Alfie also has the ability to grow and evolve just like a human. She has the power to remotely control any and all technology. At first, this is as simple as turning on a TV or an electric vehicle, but by the end of the movie, Alfie can control much larger and more intricate technology. Eventually, Josh discovers the footage that showed Maya was alive was actually faked. While Maya isn't dead, she's been in a coma ever since the Nomad attack 5 years ago. What prompted that initial attack was the fact that the US Army discovered Maya wasn't Nirmata's daughter, she was actually Nirmata herself. Maya's father was the first Nirmata and taught her everything he knew about AI and a peaceful world. When he died, Maya became the new Nirmata. Knowing that Josh would never willingly allow for his wife to be killed, the US started the assault without his knowledge. In addition, Josh learns that it wasn't the AI that set off the nuke in Los Angeles. It was actually human error. That's right, not only is the US the antagonist here, with the republics of New Asia shown to be peaceful in comparison, but AI was never an enemy. It was American ignorance all along that caused Los Angeles to get nuked. As an American, that's a little bit insulting, but at the same time, you gotta admit, it's also kinda plausible. Anyway, as the film comes to an end, Alfie gets damaged during an attack while Josh was trying to protect her. This causes the simulants to believe Josh is on their side, and they instruct him to take Alfie to a Buddhist temple where Nirmata can be found, as they believe Nirmata is the only one who can fix Alfie. At first, the monks do not allow Josh to see Nirmata and instead take Alfie to see her alone. When Josh is finally allowed into the temple, this is when he discovers Maya is in a coma, with Alfie repaired and laying by her side. The simulant monk explains that Maya needs to be allowed to die so that she can be reborn. However, since they are simulants, they cannot take the life of Nirmata, their creator. This is why Maya has been on life support for the last 5 years. This is basically how the world of the creator interprets Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. In the real world, the laws are: 1. A robot may not injure a human being or, through an action, allow a human being to come to harm. 2. A robot must obey the orders given to it by a human being, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And 3. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. We see a little bit of this throughout the film, but this is the only time that we see a simulant cannot harm someone, being Nirmata their creator. Now, the whole part about Maya being reborn is a common Buddhist belief, the continuous cycle of life, death, and rebirth, also known as the samsara. Josh works through the emotional pain of finding his love, only to have to kill her, and pulls the plug. It's unclear if Josh believes she will come back to life, if Josh is a Buddhist, or if Josh is simply allowing his loved one to die in peace. However, the fact that it was such an emotional moment for him implies that he likely believed it was simply time to let her go after she'd been stuck in a coma for 5 years. It's at this point that the US Army catches up with Josh and Commander Howell appears at the temple. She uses the brain scanning tech to scan Maya's recently deceased brain, downloading her to another USB-like device. Howell is killed by a simulant shortly after this, allowing Josh to leave the temple with Alfie and Maya's USB drive. However, he is forced to give Alfie up to the other soldiers, who all believe Josh to be a hero who killed Nirmata and found the weapon, which is technically true. Now, to go back just a moment, it's never explained how Alfie was fixed, especially since Maya was in a coma. Our theory is that the simulant monks repaired Alfie's body. Earlier in the movie, it was revealed that only Nirmata, aka Maya, could access Alfie. Her security was biologically encoded to Maya, so while Maya was in a coma, the monks would still be able to use her biological signature to gain access to Alfie and make the necessary repairs. Moving on, back in the US, the army can't destroy Alfie. The military is trying to use a small EMP weapon to completely disable Alfie, but due to Alfie's powers, they're stopped every time. However, Alfie understands her situation and will allow Josh, and only Josh, to use the mini EMP device. Throughout the film, Josh has told Alfie that death simply means off. If somebody dies, Josh just says that they're off so as not to upset Alfie, who you have to remember is still a child. At one point, when Josh temporarily shuts off one of his old simulant friends, he tells Alfie they're not off, only in standby, and that's why they look like they're off. This comes into play when the military summons Josh to deactivate Alfie. Just before Josh uses the EMP device, he tells Alfie, not off, standby, which is code for Alfie to use her powers to disable the device just before it shoots off the EMP, then fake her death until Josh can safely get her out of there. This leads to Josh and Alfie eventually escaping, going to the LAX airport, and using Alfie's powers to hijack a moon shuttle, redirecting it to the USS Nomad. From there, Alfie goes to the control room to disable the weapon, while Josh goes outside to place an explosive device on one of the mini nukes. The military tries to stop them, but the mission is still a success. Unfortunately, Josh ends up being stuck on Nomad as the military attack caused the door to the last escape pod to jam, with only Alfie on board. Luckily, just before this happened, Alfie was able to place Maya's USB device into a simulant on the Nomad that had Maya's likeness. Therefore, Maya and Josh were reunited just before the Nomad exploded, killing them both. In reality, only Josh died here, since Maya had a limited amount of time to survive in the simulant anyway. While not seen in the film, it's also quite possible Josh's brain was scanned at some point before his death, just in case the movie does really well and a sequel needs to be made. So what did you think of The Creator? Did you like the fact that it wasn't yet another sequel, or do you think it felt too much like other sci-fi movies? Would you like to see a sequel or more movies in the world of The Creator? And is the US really careless enough to nuke itself? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves sci-fi movies.